Put it on the calendar. Not trying to get unemployed. Yeah. This is your captain speaking. Not Rich. Didn't seem appropriate to ask for a drink while you were on the council meeting.
Oh, come on. Only if you put it in a plastic cup, though, that says coffee on it.
Yeah. I really appreciate that.
Still just use my
Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Tom, could you please take the roll?
Mayor King,
Present.
Councilmember at Large Austin,
Here.
Councilmember Baskin,
Present.
Fisher,
Present.
Waller,
Present.
Pashusta,
Present.
Postma,
Present.
Baker.
Present.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Under motion number 2 is approving the minutes from our August 15th, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is recognitions and awards, and the first thing out of the gate is our City Art Purchase Award that Councilmember Fisher and Councilmember Joyce Pashusta, right, picked out. And Bonnie and maybe Mary Ann or Laura, who's going to present, or how you want to unfold this. Okay, come on up. You can hardly wait. Some metal work, I understand. Sure.
Thank you.
Hi,
Mayor
Marianne.
King.
Hi there.
Hi, and City Administrator Craig and council members and city leaders. I'm Marianne Waleski and co-chair of the Austin Artworks Festival with Bonnie Reitz and working with our executive director, Laura Helly. And we came tonight to give you a report on the 11th annual Austin Artworks Festival. And we had a very successful and fun event this year that was attended by so many. And we really wanted to come to thank the City of Austin, the city leaders, and your staff for the great support. We literally could not have done this without you. And the flowers and the festival flags downtown welcoming everybody to Austin, the partnership to install a new electrical outlet downtown made just a huge difference for all of us. The cleanliness and mowing of the green space, the Bandshell Park where the concert was. I've never seen this city vacuum truck before, but it showed up on Sunday to unplug a drain that was clogged after the rain in the center of the whole thing. And it was an amazing truck. So, and our youngest artists loved the snowplow blade painting so much. You couldn't even see them under there, but they were painting away. The moving of the park benches and the tables to support the crowds and the visitors was amazing. Literally, your staff did it all. And during the course of the weekend, with everything going on in Austin, with the Tower event, with our festival, there were people from all over, literally. In addition to our artists, authors, and musicians, there were many people from Rochester, from the Twin Cities, from out of state. Literally, people came from everywhere. And they were also happy to see the city of Austin looking so beautifully and so well prepared for the event. And we want you to thank all of your staff for us because they literally, they contribute so much, and a lot of people don't know how much they contribute to make the event so great. So thank you very, very much. Now Laura's going to say a few words.
I'm Laura Helly, Executive Director of Austin Area Arts. My task is to just give you a couple of highlights of the festival, and although I could go on and on, I will be very brief and say By far, the standout experience, I think, was the Gear Daddies concert at the Bandshell Park. Many of you were there. It was a night where we really were biting our nails with the weather, but as it turned out, it was just a really memorable experience, and we appreciate being able to use the park. And I'll tell you, we did have cleanup volunteers on Sunday morning, and as it turns out, that was the most popular volunteer chef because among the empty beer cans, there were even a few full ones here and there. So a good time was had by many. Another thing I want to highlight is volunteers. We fill over 200 volunteer shifts over the weekend, and by the end of the week going into festival, they were all full, and we had waiting lists of people who said, well, if someone cancels, I want to volunteer. That kind of support, I think, is a demonstration of how much the festival touches so many different people in our community that they want to give back. And I also know that many of those volunteers are here in this room in different capacities, so thank you very much. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this is the final year under the leadership of Bonnie and Mary Ann. They've been a power team for quite some time, and they're moving on to other projects. And so our new co-chairs going into next year will be Jeff Baldus and Lisa Dunlop. And if you would indulge me in a round of applause for Bonnie and Mary Ann.
Thank you. I didn't know that was coming. I'm trying to hold back the tears here. Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. My job, or our job this evening, is to bring the city choice to council, and for 10 years we've carried it in. It's been a picture, and it's around the council chambers and all around City Hall are paintings. Well, Paul and Joyce did something a little different this year, and it was really funny. Joyce and Paul were so excited, and when they were taking us over to what they had chosen, and they said it's around the corner and around the corner, and then we saw, it's in the back here, it's a metalwork that's going to be going out to the Nature Center. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's very heavy. We had to put it on the moving cart with two guys, drive it down the sidewalk, put it in front of City Hall. And when I came tonight, it wasn't there. So I'm going, where is it? And Craig said, it's right there. So beautiful choice. Thank you very much. And each year, the City Council, we thank you so much. You give $500, and then that amount goes to the artist. And they're always very pleased to receive that. And Paul and Joyce, do you guys have anything that you want to tell about it? Because you really had a good time in the process.
Well, the festival was fantastic, as it always is. Paul and I, we went in with an open mind, of course, and visited all the artists, walked around several times, I think 2 or 3 times, 3 maybe. And each time we kept coming back to this piece. Anybody that can take a pile of junk and turn it into something like that, that's art. And right away it spoke to us of the Nature Center. So, yeah, it was different and fun. And the artist has been here, I think, almost every year, and he's never won anything. So he was just thrilled as well, so it was great.
He was so thrilled, he carried that. I don't know how much it weighs, but I can't even, move it. He carried it from the tents over to the stage when you guys presented the award because he was so proud. We've never had that happen before. So, Paul, any comments you want to make?
No, there was a lot of wonderful things to choose from. It was a very hard decision. First of all, thank all of you. I mean, the weekend was amazing. The arts, the entertainment, the whole weekend was just incredible. Like I said, people from all over. So it was great. Thank all of you. It was a tough choice, but Joyce and I walked around 3 times. First 2 times I went through and said, I got nothing. I don't know. And then we walked around and this jumped out. And to talk to this gentleman and how he made it, it's almost like an outdoor swamp. He's got the swan and the cattails and everything. It was just so fitting. And small world that it is, there was a picture of me and Joyce, and I think it was Keith was his name, that she put on Facebook for the Arts Festival. Well, I've got an old teacher of mine at Pacelli, that's a priest in the Mankato area, that said, Paul, these folks are my parishioners. And I thought, wow, small world. We picked this guy out of nowhere, and we've got a mutual acquaintance. So, no, it was great to choose that.
Well, isn't it, I knew you had told me that story, and that's pretty amazing. I mean, pretty small world, yeah. And as you know, with a festival like this, it's not just Marianne and I. There are 28 people who sit on the steering committee. We have co-chairs for all of the committees, and we do their work, and then we get together and accomplish it. But it's the work of many. And I'm very proud of what Laura said about the volunteers. It was so cool to have it filled, and people would say, well, what can I do? And we'd go, well, it's filled, we'll put you on a waiting list. That's pretty amazing for volunteering. So thank you to all of you, and thank you for being a part of it, especially with the City Purchase Awards. So thank you.
Thank you, and special thanks to Bonnie and Mary Ann for all the work you've done over the years. When we asked Paul and Joyce to pick the art, I didn't hear from Joyce on any hesitancy, so I'm sure you were ready to go. Paul, I heard, seriously? What do I know about art? Now I guess he knows a lot about art, and I think he'll probably beg to do it again next year. Next on item number 3 in recognitions award, we have a series of 3 proclamations that I'm going to read, so please be comfortable. First one's for KSMQ Public Television. Whereas KSMQ Public Television was founded in 1972 as an educational broadcast training facility that ran 90 minutes of programming daily, and whereas KSMQ became one of Minnesota's first public nonprofit television stations while partnering with Austin Public Schools and Austin Teachers College, and whereas in 2005 KSMQ became an independent community license holder, and whereas in 2016 KSMQ began raising funds to build its broadcast building and chose to remain headquartered in Austin, Minnesota, raising $5.1 million. And whereas KSMQ will be moving to the Broadcast Center at 107 West Oakland Avenue on September 16th, 2022, and whereas today the station has blossomed into a professional television outlet that brings quality public broadcasting to over 700,000 television viewers in 20 counties. And whereas KSMQ supports providing access to knowledge and culture, extending education and offering a variety of viewpoints and sensibilities. Now, therefore, I, Stephen M. King, Mayor of the City of Austin, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September 17, 2022, to be KSMQ Public Television Day. So that's KSMQ's proclamation. Next is the Historical Society. Whereas the Moore County Historical Society's mission is to discover, collect, preserve, and share the history of Moore County, and whereas the Moore County Historical Society is the only organization dedicated to the preservation of Moore County history, and whereas the Moore County Historical Society was founded in September of 1947, and whereas the Moore County Historical Society has been observing its Diamond Jubilee in 2022, and whereas the Moore County Historical Society is made up of dedicated volunteers and staff, and whereas the Moore County Historical Society celebrates Fall Harvest each September. Now, therefore, I, Stephen M. King, Mayor of the City of Austin, Minnesota, recognize the importance of the preservation of history and do hereby proclaim the week of September 19th to the 26th, 2022, to be Moore County Historical Society Week. Last proclamation is for Welcoming Week. Whereas the City of Austin proudly recognizes the Welcoming Week national event occurring September 9th through September 18th, 2022, and whereas this will be a special week in Austin with a series of events hosted with collaborations within the business community, civic groups and other units of government and other community organizations that will bring diverse communities together to celebrate their unity and strong connection with each other, while recognizing the benefits of welcoming newcomers to our community, and whereas fostering a welcoming environment and treating all individuals with compassion and respect, regardless of their background, enhances Austin's cultural fabric, economic growth, and overall prosperity for current and future generations. And whereas it is vital to recognize the efforts of newcomers in Austin because they have influenced our past and helped to shape our present. And whereas Austin is a community that values the fresh perspectives and ideas contributed by people of diverse backgrounds and experiences, and is committed to providing a welcoming environment in which all residents have opportunities to strive, grow, and succeed. And whereas Austin is committed to ensuring a welcoming and neighborly atmosphere in our community where all people are accepted and encouraged to participate fully in civic life and feel like they belong. And whereas Austin is a stronger and greater when we work together toward core American values that afford everyone the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Further, the City of Austin, Minnesota does hereby recognize that today and during Welcoming Week 2022, the value of ensuring that Austin is where we belong and encourages all residents and institutions to greet and bring their neighbors together to participate in one or more of the Welcoming Week events taking place within our community. Now therefore, I, Stephen M. King, Mayor of Austin, do hereby proclaim September 9th through September 18th, 2022 as Welcoming Week 2022. Moving on to item number 4 is a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to public hearing, item number 5 is the I-90 Bridge Replacement Project, municipal consent public hearing.
For the past 5-6 years, MnDOT has been working on a plan to develop a project for replacement of 8 bridges through Austin. And such a large project like this triggers a municipal consent process. That municipal consent process is laid out in state statute, and there are multiple steps as part of that process, municipal consent process. A key portion of that being the public hearing that we're having here tonight. But as you can see with your council backup, there is a great deal of information that is also part of this municipal consent process that's been detailed out for you. The goal of the public hearing tonight will be to have a presentation from MnDOT on the overall project, listen and accept input from the public, and then also have council discussion on the different topics that are involved. But there's no action required at tonight's meeting, it's just the public hearing. We then look to bring back in the very near future to council any additional discussion and a resolution on the overall municipal consent process. So there will be a resolution and action required of council. Hopefully at the next meeting, if more discussion is required, it could be pushed back a little bit farther as well. But we'll see where that goes after tonight's public hearing. So there's key parts of this process, and I have those laid out on sheet page 2 of the council memo. Again, the presentation by MnDOT and their consultant, SRF. MnDOT submitted a municipal consent letter to the city that detailed different timelines that we needed to meet. A key part of this process is the good faith estimate. It's important for council to know what our local community share of this overall project is. So I want to jump forward in the handouts to that breakdown of costs. And in your overall PDF, this is page 21 of your overall PDF. So when MnDOT completes a project like this, they look at each structure cost, and 7% of the overall structure cost can go toward aesthetics. As you likely recall, we did a plan for our overall corridor multiple years ago in anticipation of this project, using community members, and developed the theme or the look that we wanted for our corridor. So things like upgraded railings, staining or surface textures to the bridges, wider sidewalks, those sorts of things all fall under that aesthetic cost that MnDOT will cover up to 7% of the overall bridge project cost. And then the city is responsible for anything above that. So they look at each individual bridge, and we have that laid out for you here. The Highway 105 bridge, or Oakland Avenue West, MnDOT would cover up to $272,000. The local cost, or the aesthetic cost for this bridge, is less than that. It's $141,000, so there's no local cost. It's all covered under MnDOT's 7%. Likewise with the 14th Street Northwest Bridge, that one, the 7% MnDOT cap is about $185,000, but because that is a primary structure. There's a few more upgrades to it. The total aesthetic cost is $275,000, which does create a local share of $90,000 for that difference, above and beyond what MnDOT would cover. At 4th Street, MnDOT is covering 100% of the aesthetic costs on that one, but there are other costs associated with the 4th Street Bridge that fall under the city's requirement. That would be retaining walls. Some of the surface finishes for the retaining walls are above MnDOT's coverage, so the estimated cost for the city there is just over $76,000. Our portion of the signal light, we pay 1/6 of the signal light that is proposed at 4th Street Bridge. They look at all the different connecting points and determine what is our responsibility. That is estimated at $84,000. We've talked about the roadway extension to the south of the 4th Street Bridge down to 13th Avenue in front of Burger King, Quick Trip, Hardee's, and the new Scooters Coffee. That is 100% local cost, estimated at $309,000. As we move forward and go further east, we have the Cedar River bridges. There is no local cost there. We have the refurbishment of the 6th Street bridges. There is no local cost as part of that. And then jumping all the way to the east to the 21st Street Northeast Bridge by the airport, the local cost of $110,000 is covered by the 7% from MnDOT, so there is no local cost there. In addition to those bridges, we have the Welcome to Austin sign. We're planning for a Welcome to Austin sign that will be placed between 4th Street and 14th Street on the north side of I-90 near the new Cobblestone Hotel. The cost of that sign is estimated at $150,000. In addition to those costs, MnDOT has estimated an inflationary factor for our local costs at $136,000. And then we have the 4th Street extension, again, that roadway extension down to 13th Avenue. We have design costs associated with that. So in total, we have a total estimated cost from MnDOT that's as of about the end of August. Those costs are estimated at $920,809, so about $921,000. That is their good faith estimate as of today. This project is estimated to be bid probably about a year from now, and those costs may change, but they will keep us updated as they work through their design as to how those costs are coming. But as of today, we're looking at about $925,000. Just to give you an idea, the overall project cost, when you throw in interstate improvements, connecting roadways, it's about a $45 million project. So our portion comes out to about 2%, to give you an idea on the overall project cost. Jumping back up to my memo, there are other things included in your backup material. There will be a presentation on the staff-approved layouts, so there'll be a presentation on exactly what each bridge is going to be laid out as from a roadway standpoint and traffic movement standpoint. That'll come here in just a moment. There's a large environmental process that is done leading up to a project like this to make sure that both socio and economic as well as environmental items are addressed as part of this project and making sure that they're not impacted. So that there's a large document, not part of your council packet, but it is in the Dropbox for you to review or consider. Then there's also been some discussion regarding noise impacts of the project and just in general noise impacts of I-90. So there was a noise evaluation to determine if a study would be required as part of this project. That information is included for you, and as you know, this project did not trigger a noise study. So I did include a previous memo that was sent out to council detailing how those noise studies are evaluated, what other options the city has if we wanted to move forward with a noise study in the future. and what grants are possibly available out there. And then also what other areas along I-90 could be looked at as a possible noise receptor that we may want to consider if a noise study is moved forward by the council at a later date. And then lastly, a key part of this is the Cedar River bridges. As you all know, we've put a great deal of time and money into our flood mitigation program along North Main Street. That was all designed based on the volume of flow coming underneath the existing bridges. So a hydraulic study was done to make sure that the new bridges will still have the same hydraulics. They will still handle a similar amount of water. So we don't want the bridge opening to be larger, push more water down on Main Street. We also don't want it to be smaller and cause impacts upstream. So that has been looked at, both the before and after effects of the new bridges, and also looking at what happens during construction, making sure that while these bridges are under construction, there isn't an impact upstream. That last key portion of it, if you recall, I sent out an email a couple weeks ago that those, right now it looks like when they are building some of the piers, there could be an impact to water upstream if we were to have a flood. So we're looking at ways, working with MnDOT to mitigate any of those possible impacts. So with that, I think that covers about everything that I wanted to review with you before we turn it over to folks for a presentation. Tonight we have Jai Kelsey with MnDOT and Dave Nelson with SRF. They came and presented to you folks about a year ago to talk about how this process was going to work. So I'd like to turn it over to them now, and they'll run through a presentation for council.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, Mayor King and members of the council. As Stephen noted, my name is Jai Kelsey. I am with the Minnesota Department of Transportation based out of Rochester, and I am the project manager for the design portion of this project. Stephen did a very nice job at laying out some of the pre-text for tonight's meeting. This is, as he noted, required by state statute, primarily because this project will require small amounts of right-of-way acquisition at a couple of the interchanges, and we'll go through that as part of our presentation. So tonight we have with us Mr. Dave Nelson from SRF. SRF has been retained by MnDOT to develop the design plans for the project. Dave will run through the engineering documents that we've developed to date, and then we'll have some time afterwards for input from the public, and we will answer any questions that we can tonight. If for any reason we are stumped with a particular question, we will get back to you in writing. I do want to make a note, Stephen did bring up the cost estimate. That is a good faith cost estimate based on the level of design where we're at. We're at approximately 25% design. Those costs are projected based on what we know today, and that does include inflationary costs. But just a word of caution, I think we all know that the current bidding environment has been a little challenging. Those costs could change. They could also change as we discover more information as the project develops. We will be communicating at different intervals on the project at our 30% design, 60 and 90% design milestones. If there's any changes to the cost, we will let you know as soon as possible. Part of my job is to make sure there aren't any surprises with the costs for our local partners. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Nelson will run through this slide presentation.
Mayor and council members, thanks for the opportunity to update you folks on where we're at in the design. And what I'd like to do is, as you know, this is a corridor-wide project on I-90 in Austin. So as Stephen pointed out, it's particular interchange areas, and basically the project consists of bridge reconstruction. MnDOT's making a significant investment on this area to greatly improve the quality of infrastructure on I-90 and the surrounding areas. So I'm just going to walk through each location for folks, and if what I say or some graphics up on the screen triggers a question, please don't hesitate to interrupt me, and we can answer questions as we go. Like I said, I'll start on the west end of town and work our way east, similar to what Stephen did. And then what I'd like to do at the end, once we get done with each location, I'd just like to show one slide that kind of summarizes how we foresee construction happening. It'll be a multi-year project, and we got things set up based on some environmental restrictions with the river, and then traffic control constraints. So, and again, at that point, please feel free to ask questions. So starting out at Highway 105, Oakland Avenue in the west end of town, as you can see here, we're basically reconstructing the existing bridge in the same location with one significant improvement. There'll be a nice wide walkway on the south side of the bridge, which is meant to connect those areas west of town to downtown. And I believe Stephen and the county have some work going on there as well to make that trail connection. So that's the big improvement here. We're doing some very minor modifications to both the exit ramp approaches just to improve sight lines and so forth, but very minor there.
Stephen, before we move bridges, quick question. Isn't the sidewalk that we just put in on the other side of the bridge? I see the sidewalk on this one you mentioned was the south side. Didn't we just put new sidewalk in on the north side of Oakland?
No, we extended a trail along in front of Ford Town on the south side, and it's planned to hook right up to this one on the south side.
Thank you.
And then we'll move up to 14th. And for this particular graphic, north is to the right. What we're proposing here is to replace the two ramp terminals with a roundabout design. And what that gets us is the ability, one, to keep traffic moving during construction on the old southbound bridge. What we'll do is we'll neck traffic down to one lane in each direction. That gets us through most of the construction, honestly, in this area. Once the contractor would need to make the connections to the ramps and everything, be short-term closures, but the essence of this particular design, it improves safety. It does have sufficient capacity for future traffic volume growth. If the northwest side of town experiences growth, it still can handle a lot more volume there. And it is designed, in particular, the two traffic circles there are designed to handle large tractor trailer rigs. The red area there around the green center area, the green is meant to depict green space, but the red area is what we call a truck apron. It's that area where the back wheels of a larger truck would bump up on. And obviously there's no traffic signals involved with this design. Moving over to 4th Street, Stephen did a nice job with walking through the process on the river bridges, so I won't cover those in detail. As you can see here, we are changing the interchange configuration here at 4th Street significantly. We're trying to clean up a lot of the ambiguity that's involved with those offset ramps. And you can see we're tightening things up a little bit closer to the highway, which is, just Stephen mentioned a few minutes ago, generating the need for some retaining walls. But the bridge itself is, you can see there, it's a fairly square structure. And there'll be one traffic signal in the center of the bridge that controls all the left turning movements to and from the highway, as well as the through movements on 4th. All the right turning movements, both to and from the highway, are yield movements, so there's no other traffic signals involved. This particular design does a nice job with traffic flow. It's got very high capacity. So again, this one here will have a lot of room to grow in the future. You'll notice there are walkways on either side of the bridge connecting the north side to the south side there by Hardee's and Burger King. And then a part of this area, again, are the river bridges, and then off to the right of the screen are those rehabs for the 6th Street overpasses. This area will be constructed all together, and we'll get to the timing here in just a sec. Oops, I don't know how I did that. I don't know. We're still at 4th Street here. As Jai mentioned, the main reason that the project is triggering the municipal consent process is the needed purchase of right-of-way. And this one, you can hardly see it there. I'd have to zoom in, but it's just a little corner on the very southwestern tip of the cemetery. And it's to allow us to get a adequate turning radius so that we can accommodate large trucks. And also to make that connection there, there's the trail coming from the river. There's the walkway coming from the north, and then our walkway coming across the bridge. So there's kind of an area where 3 walkways are coming together, and the design requirements there are a bit tricky. So we just needed a little bit more room at that little corner there. And then Stephen talked about the aesthetic treatments. This is a sketch, I guess I'll call it, of what the 4th Street structure will likely look like. It's in accordance with the visual quality manual that the city prepared a few years ago. We did our best to try to follow the intent of it. You'll notice there's no center pier in this bridge, and the abutments are straight up. On a standard bridge, the abutments are sitting up high, and then there's some slope paving down, and normally on a freeway bridge, there's a center pier. We did a little economic trade-off, and it's actually a cheaper structure this way. You'll notice the decorative railing that Stephen pointed out. It's got that nice little arched shape. The overhead, or the traffic signal, is that gray bar right in the middle there, and it's actually it's a large tubular structure where the signal heads are hung on. And then you'll notice the decorative lighting on each corner of the bridge. And then the top view there is just looking in the direction of traffic on 4th Street. So you're looking perpendicular to 90. And it's just, again, illustrates the surface treatment and the coloring. We've been working with your stakeholder group for over a year now, trying to refine this based on the bridge design. So that's where things sit as far as 4th Street. And then finally, for 21st Street over by the airport, again, this is very similar to Oakland in that it's a bridge replacement. We're not doing a whole lot of other things here, but I will point out a couple things. One is, again, this bridge will have a nice wide walkway on the west side that will connect the trail into the park down to 7th there. The other thing I'll point out in this particular design here is that we are shifting for the south ramps, we're shifting the intersection just a smidge south. What that does for us is 2 things. One, it gets a better left turning movement for larger vehicles, and it also improves sight lines there around that left corner. And then again, this is another area where, because we're improving an intersection design, we are requiring a strip taking a permanent right away from the hotel there. You can kind of see it's that tan or yellow line there. It's about 10 extra feet of width just to make sure that we can have positive drainage through there, an area to work. And what I'll point out here is we're making some ADA improvements as well. That pink area just to the east of the hotel there, between that and the roadway, is we'll be installing a trail down to meet the driveway there to the hotel. Then we'll be crossing over and then going south to meet up with 7th. So that'll be a part of this project as well. Any questions on the design? I'm pretty well done with each location here. I think we'll just take a couple minutes and talk about construction phasing and traffic control.
When you say ADA,
American with Disabilities Act.
okay, okay.
It's part of the federal legislation has design parameters in there that we have to meet.
Great.
Yep. And they're a little bit more restrictive than they have been in the past, so it just takes more room to get the grades to work.
Thank you.
With the right-of-way from the hotel, does that have a material impact on their operations, or is it just kind of ancillary to their property?
Yeah, it's on that northeast side of their property. We don't think, I mean, it doesn't affect any of the hotel structure itself. I think they have a big sign there that will, in the legal documents of the right-of-way transfer will, Jai, what's the term? Will separate out that sign so we're not affecting it at all. I don't think we'll have to remove the sign itself. It's just the land under it. We need room to work. Yeah.
Just to add on to that, I think based on our analysis so far, we don't feel it's a material impact to the hotel. It's a little more ancillary. It certainly doesn't impact our parking ability there.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so this graphic here summarizes how we see the project being constructed. The auburn color, the burnt red color there, that's 2023 on it, by the creek there and over by the rail crossing. Those are going to be crossovers. When we tear down the existing eastbound river bridge, we will then cut traffic down to one lane in each direction on the freeway, then shift those 2 lanes to the westbound side. So we've got all the traffic on the freeway on the westbound side between those 2 crossover areas. And then so that happens in 2024. In 2025, we just shift things around and do the westbound bridge. Traffic gets shifted on the new eastbound bridge. So the work in red there is going to happen next summer, just about now. So just about a year from now, there'll be crews out on the highway in the center median, getting that area suitable to handle traffic crossing over. And then in early 2024, the main project will begin. I mentioned earlier some environmental restrictions. The main one is getting into the river. We can't do construction work in the river until June 15th. So what we're going to suggest to the contractor is that they start down on Oakland, do the bridge demo right away as early as they can in the spring, then get the foundation out of the ground, and then have that bridge crew shift over to the eastbound river bridge, and by that time, it should be just about the right time to get into the river. And then once they get that foundation work out of the river and start the superstructure, which is the decking, they should be able to move over to 4th Street and then demolish the existing 4th Street bridge and then work on that fall of 24 into spring of 25. So the green projects there, Oakland, and the main part by the river, 6th and 4th, we anticipate taking a good 2 years from very early spring of 24 to late 25. And then the 2 remaining interchanges there, 218 North, 218 South, we anticipate happening in 2026. And one thing I'll note, right about where that I-90 shield is between 14th and 4th, there'll be another crossover. What we've committed to is keeping, while we have 4th Street closed and the ramps closed there at 4th, keeping 218 open, all ramp movements open. So For instance, when the eastbound bridge is closed, traffic will be on the westbound side. If you're at 218 North and you want to get on the highway going eastbound, the eastbound ramp will still be open. It'll just cross over the median, and then you'll merge in with the traffic on the westbound side of the highway. So, and then again, in 2025, that whole process just gets reversed. I think that's it for the technical part of the presentation. Are there any questions on either each of the locations or perhaps the traffic control or anything else that that may pop into mind?
That's a lot of work for one community, and
There is.
appreciate it that you're going to put in what looks to be about 6
You know,
bridges.
I appreciate the level of care that MnDOT is putting into this. We're attempting to match the level of interest from the community, and it's a pleasure working here just by seeing all the public interest in the activities and so forth. We'll do our best to, like Jai said, to keep everybody informed of both the costs as we move through the design process, but as we get closer to next year in construction, there'll be, I do want to mention we're planning another public open house meeting, not too far away here, maybe a month or so, maybe a month and a half out, to cover exactly that, give folks an idea of the timing of what's going to happen, what it's going to look like, and how traffic's going to be maintained. So,
Thank you. Craig?
Dave, did you want to mention the website? I think that's pretty significant that people that are interested in the project can visit to get updates and those sorts of things.
oh, sure. Yeah, MnDOT's got a nice web page set up for the project. I think if you Google MnDOT District 6 projects, and then there'll be a list, and you can just click on there, and it's got all kinds of information.
Yeah, and one other thing to note, Craig, if you want to provide a link to our website on the city's website, I think that can be done.
Sure, we'll do that.
Okay. Jeff?
Dave and Jay, thanks for your work. I think I've been on most of your conference calls, and I think I hold the record for voting for the fewest things that actually got done, so
Well, we haven't been keeping track. So.
No, I have.
Okay.
I would like to talk about the sound issue. You know, I think a number of us have been to the Bednars and the Quidnows, and their backyards are not livable because of the highway sound. I think we've talked about this. I think Steven's done some nice work on it, but I look at this and folks, I got to tell you, a couple things just pop to mind. One of them is, we're thinking about committing the city to about almost $1 million in city funds for bridge aesthetics and $150,000 for a welcome to Austin sign. And I just have to ask the question out loud, can't we spend a little bit of that on assessing the noise impacts on people that live near the freeway in Austin? I know that's easier said than done, and I'm sure Stevens, if he had a dart, he'd throw it at me right now. But guys, you look at this, and we spend all this time looking for bald eagle impacts and migratory waterfowl impacts and historical impacts, and we kind of give these people, with no offense intended, almost a bureaucratic answer that says, well, we really can't help you because you bought wrong. And, and I know we're talking about, millions of dollars to address the noise issues that some of these folks are having. And the big question is who pays, obviously. But I just like to feel a little bit better about this project if we can. I don't know if I'll get off my soapbox.
I can attempt to answer that. Thank you, Mr. Baker, for those thoughts. You're right. I think there has been a concern that's been raised with the noise, and I would say that MnDOT certainly wants to try to recognize that concern, and we're certainly not trying to brush it off. You note the different environmental issues that we have to spend time and money on. You know, those are, you know, pretty steadfast requirements laid out in federal and state law, and I guess there really isn't an option to abide by those. In terms of the noise, is noted, we did look at the analysis or the whether it's triggering a certain noise study. At the end of the day, unfortunately, it didn't. Having said that, though, I think MnDOT is interested in trying to continue looking at other alternatives, such as the standalone noise barrier program. And to the extent that we can assist with facilitating an application for that, I think we're certainly wanting to assist with that. So we don't want to close the door on the concern here. We understand there's a concern. Unfortunately, the process that applies to the project leads us to a certain conclusion, which is going to force us to look at different alternatives, such as the program that I mentioned.
Thank you.
I would just, you know, I think before we move off that, though, I think to amplify the voice of Councilman Baker, yeah, anything you guys can do would be much appreciated, because I get the requirements, and you know, we've got to have consistency from a state standpoint, but, you know, having sat in that backyard and kind of listening to it, there's a point, and I think it's worth taking a look, and so, yeah, any assistance, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and I just want to underscore that we recognize the concern.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, council? Steven, anything else?
Nope, just the public hearing part.
Okay. So with that, any of the public here that wish to address this issue, please come on forward. Mr. Quedno, please step forward and give your name and address, please.
Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Gary Quednow. I live at 1407 2nd Street Northwest, approximately 110 feet from the interstate. To give you a little background, to the best of my knowledge and what I could find, the last noise study was done in the 1970s, which was 50-some years ago. Now even I have changed some over 50 years. When the noise study was done, I can tell you the three homes that were the closest to the interstate. It was Dr. Nessie's, Hardwick's, and Mrs. Baudler's. And for those of you that are not aware of the area, Mrs. Baudler's home would be the northwest end of the berm that goes from 2nd Street down past Barley's to North Main Street. Otherwise, that was an open field, thus the name Pasture Heights. There was nothing else there. So I don't really believe the animals and the birds in the pasture were too concerned about the noise study. And to give you a little background, 2 winters ago, 4 o'clock in the morning, we thought our roof was falling in. Well, MnDOT was clearing the interstate. There were ice chunks and snow, ice chunks as big as softballs or bigger, that hit our house, tore branches off our trees. Some of it ended up in the front yard, wrecked our back door. I called MnDOT and said, you know, what's going on? They politely told me there's no house there. I said, I guess I'm a figment of my imagination. Later that day, they did come by and check and said, oh, I guess there is a house here. And they did take care of the repairs. If you go back and look, and I know Louis Anderson, who used to be the old Minnesota Department of Engineering, matter of fact, is my neighbor and good friend. If you go back and you look at I-90, if you go to Dakota, Minnesota, which is on the Mississippi River, and it's a little bit north and west of there where the road branches off 90 to come west, there's not a city, and I've gone through them, and I can list them for you. Ridgeway, St. Charles, Dover, Yoder, Rochester, Stewartville, Dexter, Haywood, Elberly, Alden, Blue Earth, Goukeen, Welcome, Sherburne, Fairmont, Alpha, Jackson, and Worthington. That the interstate passes within that close to a residential neighborhood. And I think you have to go beyond Worthington to probably Beaver Creek before you find another neighborhood that's close. And to give you an idea, I measured on our patio, anywhere from 11.5 to 14 feet. If we sit out on our patio and the phone rings, which is that far away, we can't hear it. We'll go in and say, gee, there's a message. Did you hear the phone, Nancy? Nope. Did you? No. And my hearing is not too bad. We sit approximately anywhere from 45 feet to the top of the ditch to 38 feet, and I measured it this afternoon. And the rest of that is to the interstate. Traffic on I-90 originally was set up for 50,000 vehicles per day. Now it's up to 120,000 vehicles a day. Now, we don't get all 120,000, obviously, but if you divide that out, obviously the truck traffic has increased. Hormel, back in the 1970s, when the beef kill was still there, processed anywhere around 10.5 to 11,000 animals a day. Now they're up to 18 to 19,000 animals a day, and they're all trucked in. And then let's add in the engine braking. And I called the DOT and said, gee, can we put up a sign? No, because the ordinance not enforced anyway. Okay. All I'm asking for, and all we're asking for, is a study. Come and sit in my backyard. It's absolutely unusable. Absolutely. And I'm paying taxes for that. And so are Bednar's. And to give you another thing, last year, Bednar spent $25,000 residing their house. Why? Because there was sand and chemicals from the interstate that eroded their siding. In the last 15 years, we've power washed our house twice and painted it. So we're talking around $40,000 that we've spent because we're that close to the interstate. Beyond that, I don't know what else I can tell you. But I thank Mr. Austin, Mr. Baskin, Ms. Waller, and Mr. Baker for coming and being receptive and understanding what's going on. To be perfectly honest, I was disappointed with Mr. King and our city administrator, who really didn't give us much of the time of day. And that's too bad. Because if it was your backyard, you would probably want something done. Thank you.
Council, anything else on this?
Well, my only thought is, to be fair to everybody from 21st Street Northeast to Oakland Avenue in the West End, where do you start and stop with a wall? Because everybody's close. I mean, you go all the way around, all the way through town, you know, because you can go out buying Burger King, and those folks are close. So I get people that live over in the Northeast, they're close. So the problem is, I don't understand how would you do a survey? You'd have to build a wall around the whole city.
I think if you look at the elevations and the fact that they're right by 4th Street and 6th Street, with the traffic coming on and getting off right there in that short distance, you have a lot of acceleration and a lot of braking, and that's what's causing the problem is their elevation. If you go to the west, that area between 4th Street and 14th Street, the freeway sits below the property, so you don't get the noise like you do in this area or any of the other areas really in the city, I don't think. So I think that's the main thing that they've got going against them, I guess would be the way to put it in this area. And it is, having been there, I mean, it is terrible. It's even worse than Mr. Quedno said. Standing on Bednar's back patio, you to me, you can't hardly carry on a conversation. So I think the least we could do is figure out a way to get the study done, hopefully.
I think it's going to come down to what the appetite of council is. Clearly, there's two sides of this story, and I saddened that you're disappointed in me, but it's not the first time. You can just ask my wife. She's often disappointed in me. Craig and I did stop out. It is noisy. I get that. I can appreciate that MnDOT's perspective is that there's no structural change to that bridge. In fact, the roadway, I guess the exit ramp is moving closer to the freeway away from the home. But those are kind of the rules where we're at. You know, we all make choices. I chose to live backing up to a cemetery. That might freak people out. I get it. That was my choice to move there. Freeway was there when you lived or when you moved in. We can acknowledge that. So it really comes down to the appetite of what the city as a whole wants to tolerate. I think that's what council represents, is the whole city. Who gets the bang for the buck when you perhaps bought land at a discounted rate because it was close to the freeway, might have enjoyed the benefit of having that lower cost land, but then that said, it's up to us to look at the whole city and who's impacted and how we can, again, if there was a structural change, like adding a lane, I think that'd be a little easier, but this is gonna be an interesting one, how this comes out, no doubt. I see both sides of it. It's absolutely noisy. If there's a way, and we'll see what the cost-benefit analysis comes out for the city. I can agree with Councilmember Fisher too, is if we do your neighborhood, that street, where does it end? Crane Chapel area, you know, there's some significantly less wealth in that area. Do we ignore them even though they're just as close? There's significant concerns to weigh here. So it's interesting to see where it does go. But no action is needed. Oh, Patty, did you have something? Sure, please. Representative Mueller.
Thank you, Council, for just giving me a brief moment. Representative Mueller, and thank you, Councilman Baker, and those of you who went out to the property. I also did have a chance to go out to the property and did receive a call from City Administrator Clark to hear both sides of the story. One of the things that I think that is missing in the conversation is the fact that what is being kind of used as I don't want to use excuse, as a measurement stick right now is what we have set out from the state. The state has said these are the matrices that we use to decide whether or not we should have a noise study or not. And again, Councilman Fisher, I hear what you're saying, but a noise study would be able to determine if we need to have a wall there, only there, or around the entire thing. It's not just one or the other, there is another option as well. So what I have told the Quinnaus and the Benders is that, and I have talked to Michael Doherty as well from MnDOT, the administrator or the director of District 6, is I have asked to see the matrices, and I've read through the report, just the same report that you've gotten. And I have asked him, are these matrices more favorable to a metro area than it is to a rural area? Will we ever be able to qualify for a noise study? And that's something that he was not able to answer for me. And so that's something that I think that we, if the council, you have their options to look at the noise study, just or the bridge or the noise wall that the MnDOT has talked to you about today, which I was told has very little funding in it, and that's something we can also address. But I think that we as a council also, you as a council, need to be able to advocate for your constituents at the state and say, MnDOT, it's time for you to look at your matrices, and it's time for you to update how you determine who gets a noise study. And so I think that's part of the conversation that needs to be in this discussion as you decide what you want to do. So thank you for looking at it holistically, and thank you for listening to everyone. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you for your work on that, Representative Mueller.
I think the only thing I'd add is, to me, I think there's a couple levels of decision here. So the first one is, do you do a noise study or do you not do a noise study? Then there's a whole, based on what we find from the noise study, probably separate conversation to have about what, if anything, do we do with it. You know, I think in a situation like this, redoing the bridge, you know, with the level of noise, in my view, I think it's worth figuring out a way to do the noise study, because I think there is a legitimate argument to be made there, especially if we don't have one for 40 or 50 years. Now, if it comes back and it says, listen, it's going to be $1.5 million, the community is going to fund a good chunk of that, and it's really going to positively benefit 2 or 3 homes, that's maybe a different discussion, and I think, you know, in talking with the Quidnows and the Bednars, they would be comfortable probably having that discussion as well. So to me, I think we start the discussion with, do we do the noise study? I think there's enough there. Do we spend $1.5 million on a noise wall, or where do we start it, or what does that look like? That's a conversation for a future day, and I don't know that we need to have that one today.
Sure, makes sense.
So with the parameters of the noise study the way it is, like you said, would us paying for one even, I mean, would we even bother to pay for one at this point? Or do we need to push the state and change their matrix?
You can do both. I'm not saying, I mean.
Yeah, so, because I'm for, I agree with you, Jason, as well, but I don't want to pay for a study that we already know going into that we're probably going to fail too, so.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak on this matter? Stephen, you have some further?
I just wanted to clarify with Mr. Byram, do we need to close the public hearing, or do we just move on to the next council agenda item? Is there anything official that needs to happen to close the hearing?
No, if you feel the public's had their opportunity, then we just close it. Move it off and talk about it later.
There is. Yep, all right, with no further public discussion, then we'll close that portion and move on to item number 6. Under public hearing is a reviewing of a 5-year tax abatement request from Nicholas and Brianne Erickson. Craig.
Thank you, Mayor, members. Looks like we have a relocation from Faribault to Austin, taking advantage of our tax abatement program. This is an infill property at 3302 6th Street Northeast in the North Meadows subdivision. Estimated value is $400,000. The submission is in conformance with our adopted policy, and council action is requested to approve it. This is a public hearing.
Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Council, any questions or comments on it?
Yeah, I got a quick question. On the application, first question, has the applicant ever defaulted on property taxes? Yes. I realize how can you default on property taxes when there are going to be none, but is that a red flag or not?
I was assuming that they thought the answer to every question was yes, and so they just automatically.
Okay, all right.
I'm hoping that's the case. Didn't realize that the first one is a no and the rest are yeses. But that would be worth knowing for sure.
Right. We can certainly look into that.
Okay.
Approve it pending that answer is no.
I would move that we approve it pending the answer to question 1 is no.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
All right, under item number 7, petitions and requests, buckle up for Chief McKeegan on reviewing an ordinance for the regulation of edible cannabinoids. McKeek?
Yeah, this is just a continuation of the couple work sessions that we've had to move under city ordinance the ability to regulate some of these products and inspect some of these products. Mr. Byram did a nice job in summarizing the ordinance for us, so you can kind of see the ordinance's entirety melded into our tobacco ordinance, but he's also done a summary which takes out the key pieces that we are adding to this particular ordinance that are more edible specific, and look at what we're trying to do here. We're really trying to do the things that are available to us under the jurisdiction that we serve, knowing that, you know, some things still would be incumbent on the state, I think, to tighten up in the future. This all stems from a change to a piece of statute under the 151 chapter, specifically 15172, that for the first time has really qualified that THC products can exist in some of these edibles, including a Delta 9, which has traditionally been tied to the high associated with marijuana. While 15172 has most of its provisions covering all edible cannabinoid products, the THC one is the one that's kind of generated the most interest, and it's the only one bound by that 5 milligrams per serving 50 milligram overall limit. But when you look at the packaging requirements and other things under that statute, they really apply to all products. And so what we're looking to do as a community under this ordinance is, one, establish licensing, have our vendors and retailers that are going to enter this space be licensed like we do for cigarettes and our alcohol products. We're going to be able to know where we need to stop out and take a look at what products they have on the shelves and what they're necessarily selling. I did include in your backup material new guidance from the Pharmacy Board, just published on August 24th. That's really geared towards our retailers. I've been out, probably talked to over a dozen in the space, found some that are selling products, some that are not. But one of the big takeaways for me is there really has been a lack of information for some of these folks on what the new rules are. And we've had to address some of the products on the shelves with them. And so it's a nice piece that really summarizes some of this for our retail establishments, something I plan on including when we send out some notices to retailers on what they need to look for. And I think, again, responsible retailers under licensure will help us to ensure that products on their shelves meet the standards in front of us. The Pharmacy Board also put out a nice THC inspection checklist for local law enforcement. While we could use this under the auspices of 1572, I think, again, it's better to move it under a licensing ordinance with some of those civil penalties and other things. Again, this is a nice form that we can use, we can share with our licensed vendors. They know what we would be looking for upon an inspection. And again, goes to the point of, I think, knowing it, seeing what our checklist is. I hope ahead of time they would vet their products to go, hey, you're a manufacturer upstream, you're trying to introduce a product here. I can already tell it fails 2 or 3 of these. I don't want law enforcement to check this off. So I think there's some nice pieces rolling out. We've added some things about strengthening how folks under 21 are not allowed to get this. I think it'll help us work in partnership with our schools to handle contraband and things they might see in that environment. We put some language again to let those that are getting licensed understand, again, how compliance checks are going to function, things of that nature. I think, again, we're a little bit on the lead in this, but I did notice that Albert Lee is also advancing something very same and similar to us. And so I think you'll start seeing some of these move forward as well as the City of Austin.
Thank you, Chief. Council, anything for Chief McKeegan on this?
I think the only thing I'd say is 2 things. Number one is a huge thank you to Chief McKeegan and City Attorney Byram for their leadership on this. I think you guys have done a nice job of trying to engage local stakeholders, including our businesses and our schools and obviously law enforcement. And number 2 is I think that leadership shows in that the easy thing to do is just to ban it, to pass a moratorium. It's much harder to be a leader and come up with a model that other cities and states and areas of the state can follow. And I think, Austin's always been a leader in issues like this, and your leadership is definitely appreciated. And so I'm in favor of the direction that we're moving. I think it creates a good common sense, predictable licensing and regulatory framework, and it's the right direction. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jason.
Anyone else? Then we're looking for a motion for preparation of the ordinance.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now we're looking to move for adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Under 7C, looking to move for a resolution for summary publication of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. 7D, move for a resolution adopting a fee for the license.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 8 is a motion approving the holiday pay for the Environmental Education Outreach Coordinator.
A couple questions. I assume, reading the memo, that there are 11 holidays in the city system per year. This is allotting for 4 of them. Does that include Labor Day through the end of the year, or is it as of this meeting through the end of the year?
It would be through this meeting to the end of the year. if it was approved.
Okay. I guess I would like to make a motion to approve this retroactive to the 1st of September so that Labor Day is included as a holiday that is paid to this person.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept, second, amending the motion to approving the holiday pay for the Environmental Education Outreach Coordinator to include the Labor Day holiday. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 9 is a resolution setting public hearing for October 3rd, 2022 on fall assessments.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 10 is a resolution approving a resolution encouraging the Minnesota Legislature to hold a special session. Craig?
Thank you, Mayor and members. Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities suggested that we do a resolution in favor of calling for a special session. The coalition has done that with many other partnering organizations and sent that letter off. They want to hear from cities across the state. We've put together a resolution for your consideration tonight, highlighting the need for a bonding bill with the importance of our wastewater treatment plant and the increased costs for our residents that we're facing with the $105 million project. We feel there's no better time to get together with the legislature and move for approval that they weren't able to get done during the legislative session. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do we really think this will matter?
Doesn't hurt. And Representative Mueller left, but I certainly appreciate what she's done so far. It's just, it's something rather than sitting on her hands. So whether it works or not, I'm not certain, but it costs the price of a stamp.
I did see a large letter in newspapers with League of Minnesota Cities, League of Townships. I mean, there was a dozen organizations on there. So.
Yeah. I think everybody's doing what they can, those that are impacted by it, and we're certainly impacted by it, looking for $20 million for our wastewater treatment plant. So we're in for the long haul, and we'll do whatever it takes to help get that money to us. So if we're encouraging the Minnesota Legislature to get back on a special session, and if there's movement, that's great. If not, we tried. So looking for a resolution to approve that resolution.
So move the resolution.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thanks, Tom. Under item number 11 is a motion authorizing the annual fall yard waste program. Stephen?
Yes, as leaves begin to fall, we want to be prepared to have a site for that. The Creekside Business Park has been our site for many years. We will continue that location this year, accepting fall yard waste beginning September 17th through November 27th. We accept waste at the site from dawn until dusk, so during daylight hours. We accept leaves, grass, and plantings and flowers from your gardens. We do not accept branches, and we ask residents to take care of their plastic. If they do bring their leaves out in plastic bags, that the plastic is either taken back home with them or put in the garbage cans that are on site. There is a slight cost to this program as we work with Mower County we split the advertising for the program, and that cost comes out of our waste transfer station budget. So with that, we would recommend a request council pass the motion for the proposed dates for the leaf collection site.
Council, any questions? Looking for a motion for item number 11.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 12 is a resolution in support of the Bridge Investment Program discretionary grant application for the I-90 Austin Bridges Improvement and Mobility Project. Craig?
Thank you, Mayor. Members, at a previous meeting, council approved authorizing the mayor to sign a letter on behalf and support of the grant program. Subsequently, MnDOT reached back out to us and said that part of that application requires a resolution. So we're honoring that piece by asking for council approval of a resolution to the same grant program. Happy to answer any questions.
Comments, questions, council? If not, looking for resolution for item number 12.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 13 is accepting donations to the city of Austin. We have one. The donor is Country Financial. They gave $1,500 to the police weight room. With that, looking to accept that donation on the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thanks, Tom. Number 14 is a motion and a series of ordinances for reviewing Lansing Township annexation. Holly?
Mayor and council members, this annexation is in one memo, but it is two separate parcels. I'm including one section that is about 12 acres, which includes 4 privately owned parcels as well as some public right-of-way. And then another section that's 1.65 acres that we call the O'Leary Sliver. Those two parcels are handled differently under our Minnesota state statutes. So there's different information required in the ordinances. And then those, as part of the process, go to the state for further approval. And once we get an order, then those properties will be annexed. So just because there's different information required, I did 2 separate ordinances. This property, that's 12 acres, is located west of Todd Park. Again, that includes 4 privately owned parcels, as well as some public right-of-way. There's some gaps that have arisen as adjacent properties were annexed. This annexation will just bring all of that in a very simple way. There's one parcel that desperately needs to connect to city sewer in order to maintain the business that they have. And then it just made sense to include the rest of the area within that annexation. The O'Leary Sliver was owned, it just was seemed like a kind of an abandoned little piece of property. And it took us a little while to figure out how to move forward with, ended up being acquired by the city from Hormel, and then that makes it a very easy process for us to annex that piece. Some of the things I just point out in the annex are in the ordinance. The area where the Windrift is located, there are a couple of residential properties as well as business that will be zoned R2, which is a residential district zone, but it does allow all of those uses to continue under our zoning ordinance, in case there's any concern by anybody about that. And then we do some reimbursement for taxes on that particular area because the township currently gets tax advantage from those properties. So that would be reimbursed over a 2-year period of 50% in 2023 and 50% in 2024, which is the minimum reimbursement time required by statute. I would just make one correction just to clarify under number 6 of that ordinance. Where it says R2 residential, I have R2 residential office district, and it should just read R2 residential district. So if you could make a motion if you so desire with that one correction. I would appreciate it. Otherwise, do you have any questions?
Council, anything for Ms. Wallace? Then making a motion with the change as articulated by Holly. Looking for 14A, a motion for preparation of the ordinances.
I'll make the motion with corrections.
Okay, there's a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 14B is ordinance for adoption and publication of the first Lansing Township annexation.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. 14C is an ordinance for adoption and publication of the second Lansing Township annexation.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. The last under the addition is item number 15, appointing Jeff Smith to the Arts and Culture Committee, term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Time to get to say anything? The people who are being annexed?
It wasn't a public hearing, but what are you looking, Doris?
So we don't get to, we don't have a choice in this, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying it wasn't
So I
listed as a
might
public
add
hearing.
earlier, you told the Quindos and the Bednars that they chose where they chose to buy property. So did I. I grew up in that property. I've been there for 56 years. I did not choose the city of Austin. The city of Austin chose me. You are the ones who surrounded my land. I did not ask to be annexed in. The services I receive are more than adequate from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, the Lansing Township Hall. I've had no issues. We get nothing to say about this.
Yeah, Holly, is this one of these peripheral
Oh, because we're surrounded.
areas that are surrounded, yeah?
Yes, yes. Basically, I understood that there was a meeting at the Lansing Township, I think, an informal discussion about why this was happening, and that it was driven primarily by the Windrift annexing their property due to a need for septic systems, for city sewer connection. It's a very difficult area from a legal description perspective, and then also just from inevitability perspective. You know, all these people are going to need city sewer eventually, and I understand that Ms. Hoy's property has a septic system that is 20 years old. That is 20 years old from just speaking to the county. So, yeah, and there's not anything that the Lansing Township can do to prevent it from being annexed because of the way it is located within the city. It is up to the city to determine whether to annex the property or not.
And this might have stemmed from our annexation of Lansing some years ago, that it's now annexed into
Yeah.
Austin.
I mean, I honestly am not sure why these parcels were left out initially. I'm not sure if I'm really not sure historically why they weren't included in that general annexation. There's nothing that requires the property owners to connect to city sewer immediately. It's just something that they can do in the future. I did include, and some of the things that Ms. Hoy mentioned came from possibly our information sheet that I send out along with the notice of annexation.
This notice that was mailed, certified mail, that I never signed for.
We just have to send it. You don't have to sign for it.
I've got a question about your zoning. That isn't gonna affect the Windrift operating as a bar restaurant, is it?
No, it will not. Are you Mr. Qualley?
Yes.
Okay. No, it will not.
And another thing is, we'll be under the Austin liquor license. And the gals that are leasing it from me just paid for their liquor license.
Oh, okay.
So is that gonna be rolled over, or?
I would have to talk to our city clerk, but it was my understanding that she was gonna reach out to them prior to this meeting. So I'm guessing that was what the intention was, to have it apply.
I mean, they aren't gonna have to pay twice, are they?
No, I can't imagine they would.
Theirs was due July 1st, and yours is January 1st, correct?
I don't know. I don't handle the licensing.
So are they gonna have to pay the new one already in January, or will they get a?
Maybe the county can refund their 6 months and the city can take the 6 months.
We had certainly would try to work with you on something that is fair.
All right.
And what is the timeline for having to hook up? Do you have any, or?
And is it sewer and water? Is it just sewer?
Right, I think it depends on whether your septic system is compliant with the county, well, actually with state regulations, so the county would enforce that. If you're not compliant, then the county would require you to either replace your septic system or connect to city sewer. My understanding is that there was a great deal of cost for the Windrift to do something to support a restaurant versus just connecting to city sewer. There was like a tremendous cost difference. Did I answer the whole question?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'd like to know how long we've got to come.
Oh, yeah, that question, you'd have to go to the county to find out whether you're compliant.
So everyone's gonna have to have a compliance.
You can connect now if you want. I mean, you can connect anytime once you're annexed into the city.
But as long as they're compliant, they can remain on their septic system.
Right, I mean, most people aren't, they don't want to pay the fee or the cost to connect to city sewer while they still have a working
So
septic
is
system.
everybody gonna be required to do a compliance check now?
There are certain things, from my understanding, that trigger a compliance check, like a sale of property. And then you could voluntarily have it checked, but the county won't force you to do it unless there's a trigger. There's something in the statute that guides them as to when a compliance check is required.
And this is gonna cost us how many thousands of dollars in assessment fees?
16.
I think it was $16,000.
Yeah, they're not, well, I guess it's similar to what used to be an assessment, but it's a hookup fee. Okay. Yeah, we have an estimated cost. We can send you that information if you
I would
would
think if
like.
you're gonna annex me, that would probably be a good place to start.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had an interest in connecting to city sewer at this time, but, okay. But we'll send you that information.
So can one property connect without everyone having to do it?
Yeah, in this particular instance. There are instances where we've done studies, or the county has done a study, like in neighborhoods. I think that's what you're thinking about. But we do have a number of individuals that annex in on their own, where city sewer is available. And, so they just, as you said, they just do them individually.
I'm not going to the library, I'm not going to the pool.
So,
Any services.
so if I sell the residential part of my property, Doris won't be required to hook up,
No,
just the one I'm selling.
correct.
And I would offer Mr. Qualley and Ms. Hoy, if you have any further questions, Holly's very available by phone or in person.
We'll
So.
say we don't have a choice in that. Other than that, it's all good.
Yeah, I had been contacted by, I think it was Troy Cunningham and Mr. Qualley prior to the annexation. And then this is the first time I've talked to Ms. Hoy before.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any citizens in the gallery wishing to address the council on matters that weren't discussed?
Mr. Mayor, I think we've still got the Jeff Smith.
Oh,
the
I'm
addition.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you. Back to the item number 15, we need a motion. I'm assuming it's a motion appointing Jeff Smith to the Arts and Culture. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now citizens addressing the council. Any citizens in the gallery wishing to present anything to the council? Okay. Reports and recommendations. Craig, do we have any?
Yes.
Mayor,
I think we
Mayor,
got
there's
some.
citizens.
Oh, okay, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to address you. My name is Helen Jar. I'm the Chair of the Park Recreation and Forestry Board. And I'm just going to read this because I'm warm. Oops. I have a love-hate relationship with my glasses, too. So our board representative, who sits on the city council, requested to be on tonight's agenda, but was refused 2 times. That's why we are here at the public forum portion of the council meeting, and I'm representing the entire park board, and we do have some members that were available to be here. We are missing 2. The park director's job description and contract was changed without the knowledge of the park board. The sentence was removed that read, "works under the broad policy and guidance of the park board," and was changed to, "reports to city administrator and coordination with park board." We would like our park director's job description and contract to reflect that the director reports to the park board and not to the city administrator. In 2008, we had a director whose job description and contract stated the park director works under the broad policy guidance and direction of the park board. In 2018, we had a director whose job description and contracts stated the park director works under the broad policy guidance and direction from the park board. So that is how we are in 100% consensus of the park board. We would like that job description of our current director and contract to read. That's why I'm here.
Appreciate that, Ms. Char. I think the perspective from where I sit as the mayor was I got an email from Councilmember Waller to put an item on the agenda that I think was stated as a tweak of the job description of the Director of Park and Rec. So I met with Dave Merrill shortly after I got that email and asked him if this is something he was aware of. He said no. Hasn't been discussed on a full board. So with his approval, I responded back to Rebecca, and you were copied, and I also copied Mr. Merrill and Mr. Clark in my response, that because it hasn't been discussed on a full board, from the Park and Rec Director's perspective, I didn't want to blindside anybody. I think we were told not too long ago by Mr. Baker that it was embarrassing that we start airing public or employees over in a public setting. I also didn't want to, I want to surprise council because it surprised me. So I never want to have on the agenda something that is going to be a surprise, especially if it appears to be some kind of structural change on a position description. So there is work to be done, and we're happy that that can be done. But as originally my reply was that should take place initially at the board meeting tomorrow for the Park and Rec Board, and then follow a path forward through. Dave has also agreed to set a meeting up with administration and the park board to find a solution. And there's certainly answers, and there's always 2 sides of the story. The city administration through the HR director also has a side to what you're intimating, but I just wanted to go through the right process. So that's why I didn't put it on the agenda, but I didn't want to surprise council, and this should take place in prior meetings before they get to council.
We did discuss it at our meeting in August.
And my information from the Director of Park and Rec was it was not discussed, so that's why I put it back on there as something that I honor that perspective and needs to go through the process.
So question, how do job descriptions get changed without any knowledge of the board in this case, or council in this case, or any other case of a job description getting changed? Don't we have the final say in approving these things?
And before, I don't think we need to say too much, because I think it does still stand at the board. And then once they move it forward, Trish has shared with me.
In general.
Trish has shared with me that there really wasn't any structural change. There might have been some clarification once we had the compensation plan.
Well, I know there were some that were approved through that, but this is a change now that has occurred since that was done. So I guess I'm asking why no one but administration and HR was aware of this until it was discovered by the board that this change was made. I guess I question that.
What saddens me also is this: we had our discussion with a mediator on Tuesday, and this request was made on, I think, on a Thursday or a Wednesday. Either way, it was fresh off of a meeting where I thought we had some shared expectations that we would move forward in a more communicative way. So I was hopeful that that process would get some legs before we delve back into some animosity. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. In fact, what concerns me is my response back. As I mentioned, I responded back with a carbon copy to Dave Merrill and to our city administrator, and I got a response back from Ms. Waller that, again, just included me and Ms. Jar. I purposely do not want to take anybody out of the loop. I want to include them. These are players in the system, and they need to be aware. So it's disconcerting that when I sent the reply back, it came back again with just me on it and you as a carbon copy, Helen. So if we could just agree to this is going to take place at the work session or the Park and Rec Board meeting tomorrow, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Chris, would you like to say?
Yes, I would actually. Chris Grev, Austin, Minnesota. I'm also a Park Board member. The reason the board is here in person is because this is a conversation that needs to take place in front of full council, the mayor, and the city attorney. Previous meetings only take place with the mayor and the city administrator, and it's important for the full board to understand what's going on and what the concerns are with the park board. We've requested an audience in front of council for 18 months, not just regarding this issue, but other issues, and the mayor has denied us every time, whether it came from our board chair or from our city council rep. I don't want this to be a contentious discussion. We did have a great mediation center session. The board is committed to following through with that, but there are still issues that we have to address, and we can't ignore them. And having a conversation with 3 people does not get us where we need to be. Now, we're not asking for the job description to change. We're asking for the job description to change in that who their director reports to, because the change is wrong. That's it. We're not looking at his responsibilities. We're not looking at his benefits, his income, none of that. We're just looking to have that changed. Nothing changed in the charter between 2018 and today, so, or 2008 and today, so I'm curious as to why that change was made and why we can't have the discussion about it.
And deference to our director who said he wasn't involved in this and was...
He may have misunderstood and thought we were talking about an entire job description conversation.
Yes, I'm not gonna
but our
second guess
board
what-
has had a conversation in regards to changing who he reports to.
I specifically asked him, was he aware? He said no. So I left it at that. We agreed that it would be a Wednesday meeting at your Park and Rec Board, and we'll carry it forward from there. That's the end of
So
it.
you're going to ignore the
I'm gonna
board
go through-
again?
I'm going to go through a process that should be taking place rather
Well,
than...
then I would invite everybody here tonight to come to our board meeting tomorrow night so they can be part of the discussion, because
Public
the
meeting,
discussion
yeah.
cannot continue to take place with just you and Mr. Clark. That's wrong.
Chris, in all honesty, I have no idea what you're talking about with meetings
Well,
with
of course,
Mr.
but
Clark.
We can all go to a meeting, it'd be, have to be public.
That's right, you can't all go.
Meeting, you can go. You can go
I'm
to
sorry,
every
I missed that,
meeting.
Mr. Fisher.
You're welcome at every park board meeting.
I thought if we all would attend, it'd have to be publicly announced that there was a.
It is, it's a
It is a-
public.
it is a public
It is a
You're
public
free to
meeting.
go to every meeting that's noticed.
But aren't, kind of what you're talking about, isn't that Trish Weekman's job is
Well,
human resources?
that would be a good place to start. Why was it changed? I'm not on council. I didn't do the job descriptions. It came to our attention. We're here to address it. So I guess, who's in charge of job descriptions and how did it change?
Those can all happen after your meeting on Wednesday. So please have your meeting.
But
make a
how
motion.
can we get that question answered?
Through the meeting between city administration and park board. And then it
So
can
they're
come
coming to our
council.
meeting tomorrow.
Or after the meeting is over, you can certainly arrange a meeting as Dave Merrill intimated he would do.
Okay, so once again, we're not addressing the issues.
Not right now.
Okay, well,
Could make a broader
very
comment here.
unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate.
this feels like, I struggle to understand that we haven't had conversations, because I gotta say, about 80% of the controversial conversations we've had this year in public, in council chambers or in work sessions have been Park and Rec related.
I agree.
I think there are people that are interested in solutions, but every time we have an issue like tonight, and every time we have a blow up, it makes it really hard for people of goodwill to continue to come at it and try to find solutions. I guess in my view, and individuals can speak on their own, but there is broad support for Park. There's a heck of a lot of support for our new Park and Rec director, and we want to make sure that both of those organizations are successful. I think we recognize that there were certainly some issues between the Park Board's perspective and city leadership's perspective, which is why I was a big proponent of the League of Minnesota Cities.
Mr. Baskin, you aren't participating in that. How come?
But we got to give it a shot. We can't count on Tuesday.
But we are. We're all participating in it.
It's going, we just.
My question is,
Yeah, so if we just-
but why weren't you part of the
But
mediation?
that shouldn't stop us from conducting our business
No, what I'm saying is,
or asking questions.
Or getting on the agenda? We have requested to be on council agenda, work session agenda. We have requested a special meeting so we could all just stick together and discuss what's going on, and we've been denied. So where does the board go from here to continue their business, to fix things that are wrong? I guess from my perspective as a board member, I think we have done everything we possibly can to work and get our voices heard and get these issues fixed.
have we given the mediation process a chance to actually play out?
Do you know how long a mediation process takes?
I don't.
Mike, but again, why weren't you part of it? I mean, shouldn't have all of council been part of the mediation process and just a couple?
I believe that we gave Amy Gourlay some names of people that were involved in.
So those came from you guys, correct?
All of council, all of Park Board, all of the Library Board will be part of the process, which was explained by Amy Gourlay during our meeting. I'm sorry.
But they're not part of the process.
They will
They're
be.
part of the recommendations, but their voices weren't heard, correct?
We just met once, Chris, so there will be more meetings.
Well, there you go, Jason, we only met once. It's going to take months.
Right,
Months.
and so I guess from my perspective, Chris, and I understand the passion, and I understand, we've got some issues to solve, right? If it's gonna take multiple months, to me, what makes me question the good faith of are we making, either on our side or any side of it, is if we had one meeting a week or two ago, and now we're back having this conversation in public again. So I guess my request to both sides would be, clearly we've got some issues to work out. Let's lean into the mediation piece of it, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is do what's in the best interest of the city, which is to have a good Park and Rec department and strong relationships between our Park and Rec board, and make sure that our Park and Rec director and his team are supported. And every time we have a conversation like this, it doesn't help it. So I guess my ask is, let's lean into the mediation piece of it and give it some time to work.
I also think that the park director has been put in an untenable situation. However, he's been put in the middle of all that's going on here on the park board. I don't think that's fair at all. He came into this, he was put into it day 2, and he's been having to deal with a situation that began before him. I don't understand why he is consistently being put in the middle. And you have forced us to say, well, we think that perhaps he misunderstood our discussion at the park board meeting in August, where every single member, 100% of our 7 members, were in favor of changing the job description and contract back to what it was prior February 2022. That's all.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm new to this. Sounds like that's probably the best thing I have going for me right now. Trish, quick question for you. Does the job pointing and grading materially change if the position reports to the board or the position reports to the city administrator?
No, it does not.
Okay. This, to me, seems like an awfully simple problem. If I am Mr. Merrill, I want to work for my board, rather than having a board and reporting to somebody else. No offense to anybody. I would move that we change that job description to he reports to the board, or that position reports to the board.
I have a lot of concerns, Mr. Baker. One would be if let's just take it down the road a little bit and say if Mr. Merrill does not report to Mr. Clark like all the other department heads do and have in the past, well, not Mr. Clark, the position of the administrator. Even back when Herm, we had a resolution that we did to support him in 2012 to have him exercise a little more authority and be confident in helping or in supervising those department heads. My fear is, as elected body, if we happen to get a department head, whether it's Park and Rec or anybody, but in this case, it's Park and Rec because there's a board attached to it, and that person comes under investigation for, let's say, hostile work environment, and it's proven. And now it's the city can't terminate. We rely upon the board for that, and if they choose not to, then we're on the hook for that. That's where the slippery slope is, that we need to work in unison. There needs to be accountability that is like all the other department heads, but also in conjunction with the board. And that's what I'm hoping to discover, that we got some kind of mutual understanding here once the course is followed with the mediation.
Okay, that begs the question. We have a library board. We have an executive director of the library. Does her job description say she reports to the library board or to the city administrator?
They say the same. They say absolutely the same.
It was changed without her knowledge as well.
They say the same.
It says what? That she reports to the city administrator and not to our board?
And in consultation with the board, I believe it says, yes.
So both of these were changed within the last few years without anybody, apparently without anybody's knowledge.
Again, it was.
I guess I just don't understand
Goes back,
how these things can happen without the boards or council being aware of them. I mean, I just think that there's too many decisions being made by too few people that.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff.
I mean, we're the elected officials that are elected to take care of these matters, and we're not dealing with them.
That's why it concerns me when I get a letter or an email from a council person that serves as a liaison to the park board that only is written to me with carbon copy Ms. Jar and excludes the director and the administrator. That gives me pause, and I want this.
Well, I think based on Ms. Jar's comments, they're trying to keep Mr. Merrill out of this because it's the position, not the person.
Mr. Merrill's trying to keep Mr. Merrill out. I get that. It puts him in a precarious position, but this is why we put these on for meetings that aren't on a full-blown formal council meeting.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective.
Maybe that should have been explained to.
if we can't be heard, we can't have conversations.
Ms. Graff, you can be heard. It's just the process.
When?
It's just the process. I told you that we're.
Last 18 months.
You're going to meet with your board tomorrow.
This is a board and council issue. It should not involve
through the
our director
process.
in any way, shape, or form. And you've talked about how this gets contentious because we keep coming in this way. It's because we can't get on the agenda. We can't even get on the work session. There's a problem there. You've commented, there were so many avenues, so many exits that we could have taken to fix this. I don't know what the board should be doing. The point is, and we're going to have a big blow up on this, so I won't carry it beyond this, but it goes back to the charter. The park board has a specific charter within the city. Most of council, or a part of council, is not recognizing that. And we're gonna come to fisticuffs with it sooner or later. But the authority of the city administrator over personnel it has to come from you. It has to be a vote by council. So for the fact that our park director is reporting to the city administrator is wrong.
As it always has been, though, since Kim Underwood.
No, it has not always been. It has always been that the park director reports to the park board. If we want to dig up, we can get Jenny Mashka's, but we've got two previous, we're going back, how many years? 14 years where the park director has reported to the park board, except for now.
So if I can make an observation, maybe, I think this is a conversation that A, it's worth having offline. B, if we let's put it on the next work session agenda and make sure that we've got time to have it hashed out. Because where I struggle as a policymaker right now is, I don't know if what you're saying is true or not. Probably is. I don't know if what the mayor or Jeff or anybody are saying is true or not. Probably is. That's why we've got a process for why we go through these things. And I think it's worth, let's get the memos, let's get all the analysis of what we've looked at in the past, and let's have a conversation with it. Because, clearly there's things that we want to have a conversation with as a council. I personally would like to be prepared in terms of kind of what we're going to talk about or not talk about with it. And, we can kind of come to a good spot. But if I can just make an observation, saying that we're going to come to fisticuffs, sending legal letter, things like that don't help the situation. And honestly, when we talk
And
about...
if we
Ma'am,
were heard, there wouldn't have been a private citizen hiring an attorney.
Ma'am, we've had so many conversations about the Park and Rec Board.
Yes,
so
and what have you done to help us?
And if I can make one...
All I want to say is that there's a difference between being heard and getting the answer you want. And I
No,
think therein lies your frustration.
No, we haven't been heard. When have we been heard?
I sat
Mr.
down
Postma?
with you at
Yes.
the coffee house on Main
Yes.
within the last year.
You're
You say
correct.
you were not on the work session. The Park and Rec was literally on the last work session, which we then put forward to and voted on today.
I spoke with you about the hiring process. That doesn't involve all the other issues that we have that we want to talk about. The charter, the maintenance position, the tree crew. There's other things that we need to talk to council about, because there are people in administration who are interfering with the work of the park board.
And Chris, the
So-
only thing I
I
would
guess
say...
I'm sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I don't want this to be contentious. I don't want us to get in a fight. I like all you people. We live together. But we have to, the park board needs to be heard. The conversations need to take place with the park board, not just a couple people.
And I guess the one thing I'd like to say is that we have Park Board, Library Board, we have planning commissions, we have other boards and commissions. And when the planning commission makes a recommendation to council, we don't have to take it to a work session to debate whether their action is correct or not. It is put on our agenda for a council meeting. And in the past, I know I served as the council representative on the Park and Rec and Forestry Board for many years. And when we took action at a park board meeting and made it a recommendation to the council, it went straight to the council for the council to vote on. It wasn't taken to a work session to be debated and rehashed and decide whether the board made the right decision or not. We took their recommendation. And by not doing that anymore, by making the board, you have several citizens here tonight that serve on that board that are very passionate about that board and the service they provide to that board and to this council, let me say. If we continue to treat them in a manner that we do not treat other boards and commissions, who is going to want to serve on that board? And the mission is accomplished that I think somebody has out to get rid of the Park and Rec Board so that we don't have them anymore. So that puts how much more work on the council? I mean, I served on that board for many, many years, and that board does a lot of our work for us. And to be so contentious with them and to ignore their requests and to treat them in this manner, to me, is just unconscionable. I mean,
To break it down to its initial point again, when I got the email, I went to Dave Merrill, the director.
well, maybe what you
Asked
should have
what
done
his
then is
opinion was. He had
replied to these people and told them
He replied to
process
the.
it. I don't think that
replied to the
message was
person
received.
How about one at a
on
time?
the email and gave a carbon copy. And I also included Mr. Merrill and Mr. Clark. I couldn't have done any more. Again, the process that I want to see to run a meeting, obviously it's out the door now, but was to not surprise council or me until the further diligence was done. And when I get a response from the director of any department that says they have no idea what this is, I'm going to put the brakes on it. And then please have this meeting at Wednesday tomorrow on your meeting, and then bring it to whatever it needs for legs, whether it's a work session next time. I'm wide open to it. Thank you.
I appreciate your time. It was nice to be able to get through an issue with council yet again.
Thanks, Chris.
Any other citizens here addressing to address the council? Sure, come on and give us your name and address, please.
I won't take up too much of your time. 2-3 minutes tops. I don't need you guys to fix any issues. I just want you guys to be aware of something. My name is Kelly Ball. I live at 505B 25th Avenue Northwest. I have spent almost 4 years in Austin, Minnesota. I have no personal connection with this town. I moved here via a job at the Hormel Nature Center. You probably have talked extensively about my job, maybe a little bit about me as well. But the whole reason that I came here to Austin is because of the Nature Center and the potential that it has. It has such an impact for not only the community, but people in the community, the region in general, and allows me to grow as a professional in the field of environmental education and natural resources. So that's the entire reason that I am here, and the reason that I have stayed here for these past 4 years, working through various jobs in the Nature Center to the point where now I am now in this, whatever you want to call it, flux of, am I permanent, am I not? I'm not here to try and fix my job. I'm not here to get any answers as far as that's concerned. I am just here to talk about the last meeting and the last workshop session that there was and how some things were handled. Because this entire process has been less than smooth, and I know that working and living through this kind of situation that's dealing with my own very livelihood is also very mentally taxing and exhausting. But most recently, there was an instance in the last workshop session on August 15th, because the discussion was not only about my position, but about me as a person. And I don't really know everything that was said. All I got was from the meeting minutes, but the fact that the meeting minutes was reflected about me as a person and deemed shameful by a city council member in the way that I have been talked about during these work sessions, as presented in the meeting minutes, is extremely disheartening. To be I don't know a good word for it other than not necessarily targeted, but it feels very bad, right? To know that I have no idea what led up to the point of those words either, because all I have to go off of are the meeting minutes. Now, knowing that not only as a city employee, but just a citizen of Austin, knowing that the city council that is supposed to be representing me as a city employee and a member of the city of Austin, not only has had discussions with my full name in the mix, but also has been, according to the meeting minutes, been represented as shameful, makes me very disappointed and frankly alienated as a member of this community. And I just wanted to stand up here in front of all of you right now, face to face, and let you know that. So that is all that I have for you today. Thank you for your time. Like I said, I don't need solutions. I just want you guys to be aware. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to the council that's not on the agenda? Okay. Councilors. Becky, do you have anything?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Paul?
I've got nothing, Your Honor.
Jason?
Two quick things. One is welcome back to school for all of our local students and teachers. Obviously, great to have them back, and it's so vital to the future workforce and prosperity of our community. So great to see that. And just, the second thing is, I think we take a step back, and there's a lot of passion, and sometimes that passion spills over, and the way we say things, myself included, is probably doesn't engender the response that we're looking for. But I think at the end of the day, that passion comes from we're all trying to do the best thing for the city of Austin, and trying to make sure that we do what we need to do in order to get there. And so, I think as we move forward on whatever the issue is, we're trying to all move in the right direction, and I appreciate the work and the passion of everybody in the audience and on the council for trying to get there. So it's what makes us a good body and ultimately a good community.
Thank you. Jeff?
I guess I'd like to say thank you to the Arts Council for putting on a great arts festival this past weekend. I know it brought 2 of my family members from out of state and a few more from up in the cities to town for the weekend, so my life was wonderful for 4 days, having family all around me, and it was because of the festival. Also encourage everyone to participate any way they can in Welcoming Week, starting this week through next week. Thank you. That's all I have.
Jeff?
Yeah, Laura and your crew, best one-day music festival in Austin's history. Congratulations. Yeah, I just, second, are we in agreement that we're going to resolve this job description thing at the next work session?
I believe that's where it will land.
Believe, or we're gonna do this, gentlemen?
Whatever if the board meets on it, then it belongs on a work session, frankly.
So it'll be on there, good, thanks.
Posty?
I just again want to echo my thanks to all of those who had a lot to do with the Artworks Festival. It was excellent, especially all of our city staff who put in a lot of extra time doing things that don't always go recognized. I got to spend a half hour moving some of those picnic tables, and dude, my back still hurts. So that job is no joke. So thank you all.
Joyce?
I have nothing, thank you.
I just want to say what a nice time it was at the New Tech ribbon cutting and the private concert Martin Zeller's Gear Daddies put on. That was quite a show. We're very impressed by New Tech. We're looking forward to them going online. And I will leave it there. So looking for a motion to adjourn Monday, September 19th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute break and move down to the well and have our work session.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get to it. They sent me a picture we had in the Saturday's paper. Oh, it's already there. Yep.
Hey, Ted, list KSMQ, please. Ted, it's KSMQ proclamation. You want to give that to Eric when you see him at your next board meeting or something?
Tax increase.
All right, thanks, man.
The best thing to do the easiest way.
Thanks for that, Ted.
Good job with the festival.
Trish?
And I'm on the other side of it, so. You know, the next 11 months or so. You're in the library.
adjourned.